Good evening and welcome to the November 19th, 2012 Jurupa Unified School District Board meeting. We'll open public session with roll call, please.
President Schmidt.
Thank you. Here.
Trustee Burns. Thank you. Here. Trustee Harris.
Here.
Trustee Mendez.
Here.
Trustee Schaefer.
Here.
Student board members absent.
Thank you. And student board members must be taking a nice Thanksgiving break. Mr. Harris, would you do the flag salute, please?
Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And since we don't have any student board member reports tonight, we will skip over their welcome and go to recognition and recognize the service of outgoing member. And I guess that's me. Mr. Harris will be leaving us after tonight, and so I would like to present him with a plaque for his service to the school district. Before I give it to you, let me read it. It says, presented to Carl Harris in recognition of your dedicated service to the Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education from April 2011 to November 2012. And thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to public verbal comments. And I have one tonight. I want to remind everyone that tonight's meeting is being recorded, both audio and video, and that all speakers have a right to their own opinions, and neither board members nor staff will be responding to those opinions. And the district's silence should not be mistaken for agreement, but simply to avoid legal entanglements and or to protect the privacy of situations that may involve lawsuits, employee discipline, or dismissal. And please be assured any serious allegations have been or will be investigated thoroughly, and any responses from the board will take place during board member comments. Ms. Holqueen? When you tap, maybe pull it closer to. I heard some.
Mike? Double check. There you go.
I heard her. Oh. I don't want to push the button because I want to mess nothing up.
Check, check, check.
No?
I think it's on, it's just not very loud.
Sylvia, what if you use my mic? Here, because you have to be recorded, you have to talk into the mic. Here. All right? Is that all right?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, because don't stretch it too far.
No.
Okay, yeah, right there would be good.
Okay, I heard a rumor. No.
Yeah.
That really enraged me, and I was going to come and do this presentation filled with the rage that I felt. But this particular presentation can't be done that way, because if I do it that way, I'll be dishonoring someone that I loved and still love. It was told to me that Elliot pulled 14 kids from the middle school and the high school that were county kids. They were ED kids. Now these kids fall close to my heart, as all kids do, but these particular kids do, because I was put at the county building. It was not my request. It was done without wanting. But there was someone that dealt with ED kids. This person was a very dedicated, very loving, very giving person who had a gift. Unfortunately, I knew he was special because he was family, but it wasn't until his death that I realized exactly how special he was. And this person that I'm speaking of was my son-in-law, Lamont Jones. My daughter called on November the 13th of 06, and she was crying. She was 8.5 months pregnant, and my son-in-law was in a lot of pain. So I went and picked up my grandson, and she took him to the hospital. That also happened to be the date of their anniversary. My son-in-law never got out of the hospital. He died on the 17th, the same week. It was very tragic. He had a disease. He didn't show. You wouldn't have seen it. He never used it as a crutch. He never joined gangs. He never drank. He never did drugs. And we got there at 3 o'clock so that my grandson could tell his father bye. We left at 7 to give my daughter her special time with her husband. And between those hours of 3 and 7, there was at least 50 to 60 kids that had gone to see this man. And that was because he was an aide, an ED aide. And these kids fell to their knees and begged him not to leave them because that was the dad they knew. And one particular parent was so concerned with her child starting to cut herself because he was no longer there. He would give these kids his cell phone so that they could call it anytime they needed. And the teacher that spoke said she was highly paid because she went on to get a higher education. But he had a gift that she had never seen. Someone could be getting ready to cut themselves or take drugs, and he would take them outside, and in 10 minutes they would come back and all was good with the world. And that's how it went during his services. Children came up and spoke, and they referred to him as the only dad they knew. But it wasn't until 2 gangbangers went up there. They went up there with their colors. They had already had a t-shirt made in his honor with his face on it. And they spoke of him too. And the words that touched me, that made me realize just how gifted my son-in-law was, when they said, Mr. Jones loved us unconditionally, but he always told us we could do so much more. So to pay tribute to the man that we called father, and they took off their colors and threw them in the trash. That was a large impact. This man gave his life to these kids. And these are special, special kids. There was a child that was half Elliot size that destroyed a room. The desk in that room had chairs connected to the desk. This child totally tore up that room, threw books everywhere and stuff, and then they allowed her to have her moment, and she picked it up. Taking out these kids prior to Proposition 30 passing was just insane. These kids are special need kids. People don't understand why they do the things they do. The parent didn't understand why her child was cutting herself, but it happened. And we could never, ever put money before a child. Because if you put money before a child, you'll be rich in your pocket, but your heart and your soul will be very cold. Children should come first. So I'm asking if that's what you did. These kids are now being put in a population that they don't understand. There's maybe, 50 kids at the county building? That it isn't right to disrupt their lives. Money should be the last thing that we think about when it comes to these kids. Kids always have to come first, and let me guarantee you, if you have made a child smile, if you have wiped off a tear, if you had made a child feel worthy, then at the end of the day, you did right by these kids. But putting money before these kids, or any kids, is just the wrong thing to do.
Thank you. Mr. Duchamp.
As a matter of factual information, those children should still be in their classes. We have noticed the county that we intend to offer the same classes either through ourselves or through a private program called Spectrum. It's a non-public school placement, and the decision's been made basically on program quality. The operation of county programs, county contracts with the Riverside County Special Education Local Plan Area to serve special ed kids. We contract with the county. It's really a matter of choosing a different provider to serve the same kids. But the kids have not been pulled out of their classes, and they would be offered really what we think is a better program alternative. So.
But you gotta understand, these kids know the teachers they have been, that is their safe haven. Whether you put them in Jurupa Valley at the same atmosphere where they are needed is their safe haven.
Mrs. Ober.
Sorry, I thought I got to speak at the time.
Oh, you want, okay, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to administrative reports and written communications. The first is Mr. Dabrowski with the report on the 100 Mile Club.
While this is getting started, I want to introduce Kara Lubin. She's here. Kara, you want to come on? Kara's the founder of the 100 Mile Club, and she has a little gift for each of you.
Well, it's more of a challenge.
Okay.
It's a gift
Maybe
slash
Trojan
challenge.
horse gift.
You mustn't put these on until you hit 25 miles.
Oh,
You mustn't. The children will question you. And they will say,
thank you.
how many miles do you have? And if you don't say 25 or more, that's good.
I'll get my 25.
Yes, you will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome. We hope to see you out walking with our kids. It's an incredible program, and we hope.
Miles I've run this year count?
Yes.
Oh, great.
It's retroactive to the point where you feel comfortable.
I don't have to run them fast, right?
But we want you walking with the kiddos for sure.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing us.
Thank you.
So this won't work, so I'll use my classroom voice. We're here to talk about the 100 Mile Club, which is about health and fitness, particularly for our elementary students. And it's a really exciting program. And basically what 100 Mile Club is it's a program that began in 1993. Karen was a teacher in Corona Norco and began this program to give her students an opportunity to have something that they feel good about, for students who could achieve, and for students who could become healthier and more fit. It's now in over 140 schools in lots of different states. It's in the US and Japan and getting ready to start in the UK as well. It's a wonderful, fabulous program. We started talking about it 2 years ago, matter of fact, in a Health and Wellness Committee meeting with Mary. And at that time, there were 2 of our schools who were just beginning it, and that was Troth Street and Sky Country. And last year, another school, Glen Avon, took the plunge, and this year, it's really begun to grow, and now we have 9 of our 16 elementary schools who are actively involved, and hopefully we'll go up to 16 next year.
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident about that. And what it is, it's a physical fitness and life skills project for all individuals based on the goal of running or walking 100 miles at school during a single school year. The goal is to help runners experience fitness and true personal success through attainable physical fitness goals. What they do is they commit to running or walking 100 miles during the school year. And each school does it a little bit different. It can be during some or all of their PE time, sometimes during recess, sometimes before or after school in open runs. For example, one school will do it a couple days a week during PE, and then on the minimum day, the head coach will be out at lunch, and the kids will have the opportunity to log their miles at lunch. And then also they can do it at any 100 Mile Club sponsored event. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But what they get when they hit the 25-mile mark, they get those lovely shirts, and they have to wait until they get 25 miles on before they put them on. On the back, if you would open it, you would see there's a 25, 50, 75, and 100 mile inscription with a little box. So when they get there you go. You get to put the X in that box or decorate it or do whatever. And so the kids proudly wear their shirt and are very excited about it. And then if they get to 50 miles, or when they get to 50 miles, they get a golden pencil. At 75 miles, they get a wristband. And then at 100 miles, they get a medallion. And that's given out at a school-wide ceremony towards the end of the year. And I had the opportunity to go to one of those last year. My kids' school started the 100 Mile Club just at my older daughter's grade level. And she was a reluctant fitness person. But we started taking her to 5Ks and looking for other alternatives for them to get the miles in, and she was able to go to that ceremony, and it was a really powerful thing. The kids really love it. And I was amazed because I saw kids who had 220 miles, 250 miles. It was just amazing. I talked with Mr. Campos the other day, and he mentioned that there are kids at Trop who are already over 100 miles this school year. And my daughter's over 50. So. You can look on the 100 Mile Club's website, parents can, and this is a copy of their calendar. It's just 100mileclub.com. And any organized event that is sanctioned by the 100 Mile Club, the kids can go and they can get miles. So there's on Saturdays a couple times a month, there's a walk up Mount Rubidoux. Kids can get miles for that. There's different schools that sponsor different events in different places. In our district, every Wednesday between 4:30 and 6 at Jurupa Valley High School on the track, we're there and the kids are there and they get to walk around and run around and get their miles in. And for example, on November 3rd at Trop, there was the Community Health Fair and Open Run. That's a picture I took there of the kids out running the track, and there was vendors there supporting the health of our families. And it was very exciting. On our Wednesdays, we get between 120 and 150 student runners and families and parents with them. It's a wonderful event, and I would love for any of you to come out and be a part of that. We're not doing it this Wednesday because of the holidays, but starting next Wednesday, you're all invited to come, and you'll get the hash marks for your miles, although for adults, they do allow you to self-report, so you don't have to be at a 100 Mile Club sanctioned event if you're putting in the miles. I have a little quick video that just gives you a little more information about it. Not hearing the sound, which is bad.
Yes, right, babies?
Okay.
The mission and vision right now is, which is you are not going to let anything stop you. We had to decide what we could do with what we had, and we did not want to shut this event down because getting these miles is extremely important for these kids, right, babies? And if they can run the LA Marathon in 2 feet of rain, we can run with a little sprinkle, right? Right, so this is very cool. Hi, I'm Kara Lipman. I'm the founder of a nonprofit fitness and life skills organization dedicated to helping kids run or walk 100 miles in school. I am a fourth-generation public school teacher, and my second year teaching, I have a group of kids that were just a little bit energetic, very, very active, and needed some way to feel success in school. These were students that struggled academically and needed to learn what success felt like, and that was the J Club. They loved it. Most of them made their 100 miles, and their lives were changed forever.
My name is Roger, and I'm also teaching my name is Plum, and I go to third grade. My name is Noah, and I run 8 and 9. I'm 7 miles this year.
Right now he's at 334 miles.
Oh, now it's
335 and counting. 12 years ago, 100 Mile Club had 250 participants at my school to over 8,000 participants in a matter of 3 months. And if you look behind me, you can see that it's doing quite well. We have a great event coming this and so much fun. Our kids are amazing.
All right, you can't really see that, but that is a picture of one of our Wednesday night track events at Jurupa Valley. You can see the kids running around. This is a fabulous program, and in a time when so much focus is on language arts and reading, and our time is so squeezed, it's a simple, positive way for kids who, not all of them are as successful academically as they'd like to be, but it gives them an opportunity to be successful at something and embrace a healthy lifestyle at the same time. Any questions?
Yes, I do. Would it be possible to have the information from each one of the sites in terms of the days on which, or the hours and days on which they have their runs at the sites?
Yes. Each one would be a little different. I'll have to gather. It may take me a couple of weeks to get that, but yeah, we can definitely.
Well, my thought is if I can't catch somebody on Tuesday, maybe I can catch somebody the next day or whatever. So that was by the full schedule across the district. I might pick up places to go to.
Definitely. And with any luck, our plan is that once we give some of the schools on the Rubidoux end of the district are a little newer and just started this year. So once we have some time for that to get off the ground, our plan is to start some kind of an open run at Rubidoux High School. That'll probably be February, March by the time we really get back. Good job.
And one more comment. I would think that just by having students being physically more or healthier, that it couldn't help but impact their attitude in general overall, and definitely impact their achievement in the classroom as well too. So it'd be very interesting if we could actually conduct a study to compare some comparisons here.
At the last board meeting, when you saw the school quality index that they came out with, unfortunately the fitness information is 2 years. It's from the 10-11 school year, but Troth, one of our only schools that was doing it at the time, had probably a pretty high level of achievement on the 5th grade physical fitness test. So I know in a year or two, when we can really measure a lot of schools having done this, I think there will be a way to quantify that. We plan to come back at the end of the year and give you a total miles run for the month.
Mr. Harris?
Mr. Dabrowski, we happen to be friends with a teacher at Corona Norco, an elementary school teacher, and she was sharing with us this program actually some time ago, and how the teachers are using incentives in the classroom for performance in the classroom to inspire them towards the 100-mile club and different things that they can do. So maybe that's something that you could provide as best practice to the Jurupa, because what the teachers were doing from what I understand, was just amazing, and it was lifting the children in the classroom because they were so excited to participate in this. If they did well together in a collaborative effort, or they did well on a certain study period or test, that they were given a reward towards that 100-mile club. And I don't know the exact specifics, I can't quite remember.
It probably has to do with running time.
There you go.
All they want is more time out there getting their miles. So
yep.
You can tell them, you do this, you get more running time. Who would have thought that that's what they want?
Yeah, and that's what her point was. She was amazed that the kids were like begging, please, we'll do extra credit if you can get us out there and we can run. And so it was just amazing. Actually, thank you so much. What a great program.
Thank you. We are grateful that we have your support and that we're doing great things for kids. And I appreciate so much your support. And we hope to see you out there walking. I'm out there as much as I can.
Absolutely. And you should see them at Jurupa Valley. I mean, they get out of the car and they run to the track so that they can run. And Memo, you mentioned something about improved achievement. I can say that Troth Street reported after their first year, they engineered it so that their running time was early in the morning, and teachers reported an increase in their perception of student focus in the afternoon, which often is math time, and that's a time when they're tired and they've just had lunch, and they felt like they saw a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski. Next will be a report on school site boundary study. Mr. Gill.
Yes, ma'am. As the board is aware from previous correspondence through the Friday letter and I believe discussions, we've been looking at school site boundary study, and we have Mr. Tony Peruzzo, who's with us tonight from Decision Insight. They've met with your district staff on 2 occasions, and what Mr. Peruzzo is going to do tonight is simply outline the process that will help to streamline our schools, make them a little bit more of the neighborhood schools than what we have right now, and hopefully then cut down on our transportation costs as well. So Mr. Peruzzo is just going to present the concepts and the protocol we're using, and also the timelines. And you'll be seeing this for the first time tonight, but you'll have 2 opportunities in the future to take a look at what's going to be developed as we go. We'll also have community input as well, and Mr. Peruzzo will go through all that. Thank you. Tony?
Thank you. Good evening, Board President, members of the
You
board.
might need.
I think they put a wireless up there.
Oh, okay.
Test?
Yeah.
We have sound. Thank you. My name is Tony Peruzzo, as Paul mentioned, and I work with Decision Insight. Decision Insight has you as a client right now, providing enrollment projections for a number of things that support your staff. The part of the company that I work for, that I handle, is working with school districts when they're looking at realigning boundaries. My background is as an educator. I've been an educator for over 30 years, a retired principal, and director of secondary education, worked with K schools, middle schools, and high schools. And the part of the business that I enjoy the most is working with school districts to try and make some changes that are in the best interests of the students that you serve. And one of the major things that I'll talk about here tonight is how do you create neighborhood schools and go through a process that creates a little better situation for the children and the young people that you serve. The goals that we have in our program, in working with you, working with staff in your community, is number one, maximize neighborhood schools for K-6 students, is to minimize and if not eliminate some of the non-contiguous boundaries that you currently have. Due to some past procedures, you've had to create some areas where students are served by a school that is a distance from their neighborhood, and so there's busing that can see students to schools. So they live in an area that is not within the normal boundary of a K-6 school. To optimize student walking distances and try and do the best that we can to provide reasonable walking distances for all students that are served in any particular school. And then to align elementary boundaries to your middle and to your high schools to try and create the best possible feeder system for your school district so that students that go to an elementary school can stay together as they go to a middle school and join other elementary school students at a middle school, and then travel from the middle school to the high school together. And finally, is to make efficient use of existing capacities. Each school has a number of classrooms that help them serve students, and to try and make sure that we're using schools as efficiently as possible so that we can provide support to those neighborhood concepts. That's an important element of our work with you. The implementation for the decisions that you'll make as a school district with decision insights, support, and information would create a phase-in calendar that could start in 2013, 2014. We would initiate the change, you would initiate the change first with students that are new to your district, so that they would go to the boundary that of the school that they reside in. Exceptions to that as we implement could be students who are already enrolled at a school and students who currently have existing intra-district transfers or would want to take advantage of your existing policy for a transfer. The tasks that we have ahead of us is to, number one, generate some data based on the history of your enrollment over a 4-year period of time, where your students currently live, the kind of development that may be taking place in your district or not, and to create projections, 10-year projections for your existing boundaries, which we've already implemented, and then to work on the development of new boundaries, and from the new boundaries, knowing where your students reside, to create a 10-year projection based on the new boundary. So the intent is to make sure that whatever boundary that we're proposing, staff is proposing to you, has a lifetime of 5 to 10 years, taking into consideration the kind of enrollment changes that might take place within your school district for any particular school. Inter-district transfer data is a part of the information we would use, the school capacities and any other relevant data regarding your schools. And as I mentioned, the 10-year residential enrollment projection that we would develop based on your history and based on where students currently live. And then the feeder school alignment for elementary, middle, and high schools once again. The intent is to make sure that the information that we provide you through the use of your enrollment history and where your children live, that we develop projections that can be applied to any scenario of a new set of boundaries to make sure that the projection provides you the kind of information so that you have a thoughtful decision in front of you that will be lasting and will serve your kids for a 5 to 10 year period of time. So the data is a critical piece of what we provide to you in addition to the support for the process. The proposed calendar, we've already met with Cabinet. We have the presentation tonight to introduce the process to you. The November through December period of time, we'll be developing first scenario. That scenario will come to you as a board on February 4th for you to look at, for you to make any suggestions for changes or ask questions, clarification, look at the 10-year projections associated with each of the boundaries in the scenario, and then for decision insight for me to go back to your community with your staff and provide that same information, gather some input from your community, work with your staff to make any modifications that might come out of that process of the board meeting and meeting with your community, and then to provide that revised scenario back to the Board of Education in February. At that point in time, we would be bringing to you a recommendation for approval if our process has gone well and you're pleased with the scenario that's placed in front of you and your community receives it as well. With that, any questions?
Thank you. Question I have, with the goals being to maximize neighborhood schools for K-6, minimize non-contiguous boundaries, optimize the walking distances and align elementary boundaries to middle and high school boundaries, which was done last time that the boundaries were reviewed, making efficient use of existing school capacities. What's the fiscal impact? Is there going to be a fiscal savings to the district as a result of this, or what exactly are we hoping to achieve by doing this?
Well, step one would be to eliminate, if not lessen transportation. I don't know, Paul, you want me to go ahead and say anything more? Do you want to answer that?
That's basically it. There will be transportation savings. There will also be, over a period of time, I think it will also affect not only our own bus service, but will also affect the transportation of our parents who are taking our children to school.
Air pollution.
Mr. Mendez?
You're obviously going to collect an awful lot of data in terms of the history and development of the area and where our population tends to be concentrated and so forth. But my question is, how do we tackle unforeseen issues that come our way? For example, we had in this district planned a whole new housing development over off the 60 freeway and a brand new elementary school there and so forth, which never materialized. And so the population that we had anticipated would have been there in that section never happened. And related to that, the economy has impacted our district in terms of losing enrollment. And I haven't looked at the figures, but I would gather that that it wasn't evenly spread across the district, that there were some pockets of our district probably that were more heavily impacted. So how do we account for that in the retrieval information that'll help us predict as accurate as possible what helped best make decisions in terms of aligning boundaries?
If a district is going through, do you want to answer, Paul?
Sure. I'll be glad to take that on, although Tony can help me where I need it. Several parts to this. First, Decision Insight is looked at and they're working with us. We know where developers want to build over the next 3 or 4 years. So, and most of that activity is going to take place on the western edge of our district. So that will affect our population. Our population should rise. Those rooftops, the estimates are, and we have a total of 9 different developers who have an interest in the areas that are in the Jurupa Valley School District. Over the course of the next 3 years, 3 years is about the time we'll be seeing rooftops going up. They'll probably go up rather slowly, they think, and then build as and if the economy improves. We're going to take some of that into effect, but we're probably going to be adding portables at a few of our schools over on the west end of town. But we have several school sites that are already in those developments, and once we have enough students to populate the school, then we'll be trying to come back and open up a brand new school. As far as transfers are concerned, transfers out of the district, we have that later this evening, a discussion and a policy decision for this board to make. So we'll be bringing all of that back to you, but they will have major effects.
Yeah, I don't think I could add anything to that other than the algorithms and the information that the district provides to us is incorporated into the mathematics behind the projections that we do. A very careful process in trying to give you the best possible data. And we do two sets of projections. We do a conservative set of projections that typically for school districts is used for staffing purposes, and then a moderate or more aggressive projection that has a lot more of the development information and the possibilities of things that can happen in terms of student growth to make sure that when that growth happens, you have the capacity in your schools and the boundaries to support where that growth is taking place. So that the moderate or more aggressive projection is to help the business department in terms of facilities planning and making sure that you have facilities in place when the kids arrive.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Peruzzo and Mr. Gill.
Thank you.
Are there any other administrative reports or written communications?
No, there are not.
All right, thank you. Next, we will move to a public hearing on charter school petition for the Tom Waltham Center Big Picture Aviation Academy. This public hearing regarding the charter school petition submitted by the Tom Waltham Center Big Picture Aviation Academy. It is being held on November 19th, 2012 as part of the meeting of the Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education that is convening at 6 p.m. on Monday, November 19th, 2012. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to Ed Code Section 47605B, and Ed Code Section 47605B describes the timeline and the purpose of the public hearing. No later than 30 days after receiving a petition in accordance with Subdivision A, the governing board of the school district shall hold a public hearing on the provisions of the charter, at which time the governing board of the school district shall consider the level of support for the petition by teachers employed by the district, other employees of the district, and parents. This hearing pertains to the Tom Waltham Center Big Picture Aviation Academy Charter School petition, and this hearing will proceed as follows. First, our attorney, Ms. Dina Harris, will introduce the petition presented. Then the petitioners will be given the opportunity to make an opening statement of no more than 15 minutes, and petitioners may divide their time among various presenters as they wish. However, the total time may not exceed 15 minutes. Third, the board will hear public comment. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers shall direct their comments to the board and are urged to avoid repeating points made by previous speakers. Fourth, the board members may ask clarifying questions to the staff and the petitioners. The board will take action to either grant or deny this petition at its meeting scheduled for Monday, January 22nd, 2013. And I would ask the board, if you have particular questions, if you could write those down and get them to staff so that they can get the information on the questions and then get it all to us in a timely manner. Is the presenter present? Thank you. And who will be, for the record, who will be presenting on your behalf?
I'll be presenting. Keith Musuli Johnson. Shall I start?
First, Ms. Harris will come up and then she'll bring you. We just need your name for the public record. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not to present the petition itself, but I want to give some background because this is a very legalistic process, and it's important that both the board and I think the public understand what the process is. So I'm actually going to address three points. One is, what is the legal process for reviewing and granting or denying a charter petition? Number two, what is the legal standard that's set forth in the law for that? And then three, what does it mean to be a chartering agency should the board choose to ultimately grant the charter? First on the process, right now you have within the district a charter review team that's been put together essentially to review the charter petition. It's really important that a thorough review be conducted by those who have knowledge in the various particular areas. So it's been divided up by subject matter. I'm part of that team. I'm looking at the legal side of things, and then there's also others that are looking at some of the educational program and the other components. The next step, or not the next step, but concurrently we're having this hearing tonight, and that was, as was pointed out, part of the purpose of that hearing is to determine the level of support for the charter petition by employees of the district, as well as parents in the district. That's one of the purposes, and of course also so that you can hear public comment on just the provisions of the charter in general. Another thing that is part of the process is eventually is, I guess the January meeting, the board would be asked to either grant or deny the petition. If it's granted, you become the chartering agency, and there's a lot of things tied to that, and I'm going to review that just pretty briefly. If it's denied, they can appeal to the County Board of Education. Any denial has to be supported by significant findings, and I'm going to go over those in a minute as well. So as you're listening about the charter petition, I want you to be able to kind of keep in mind some of the things that you would be asked to, you have to make a determination as to whether or not certain legal standards are met. Oh, not tonight, obviously, but after the charter review process is complete and you're meeting again at the next time on this item. Okay, so secondly, the legal standard. The Education Code does encourage charter schools, but it also recognizes that they really have to meet a very high standard because they're part of the public school system and they're publicly funded. And so because of that, there's a number of findings. If a charter is denied, it can be denied on certain very specific criteria. There's 5 specific ones. There's 3 I'm going to kind of explain a little bit more. But one is if the board determines it's an unsound educational program. The second is if the petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program. And then the third that I want to focus on is whether or not there's reasonably comprehensive descriptions in the petition of 16 areas. And it lists all the 16 areas. So it's a very comprehensive kind of thing. And those are the 3 of the reasons why a charter petition can be denied. To go into a little bit, kind of to give some examples of that, an unsound educational program, when you're looking at that, that includes what kind of classes are being offered, whether the needs of special ed students and EL students are being addressed, whether the state standards are incorporated, whether or not what the teaching qualifications are, and that sort of thing. All the things that you would think of as a sound educational program. So that's the kind of things you would look at for that. Whether or not they're demonstrably unlikely to implement the program. That goes into things like budget. Is the budget reasonable? Is it made based on accurate assumptions about revenue and costs and expenses? Does it match what's in the charter petition in terms of what they're proposing? Sometimes also what goes under this category is whether petitioners have the necessary expertise, experience in public school administration or in public education or in governing something like this, implementing the laws that apply to public schools, whether they understand the applicable laws. So that all goes under whether or not they're just demonstrably likely or unlikely to implement the program as described. A charter could include all kinds of great language and on its face be a sound educational program, but if it can't be implemented successfully, it doesn't do any good. So you have to look at both components. Another thing, talking about the reasonably comprehensive descriptions. The Ed Code sets for 16 different categories, and that includes the academic program, student discipline, teacher qualification, governance structure, closure procedures if they were to close, dispute resolution. There's a 16 list of 16 elements. Health and safety. Those kind of have to also identify what the facilities, where they're going to be located. So again, it has to be very detailed in all these areas. And the reason it's important that each of these areas be addressed in a comprehensive fashion is really twofold. One is you can't make the determination as to whether it's a sound educational program or whether they're likely to implement it successfully unless you have enough information, unless it's described in enough detail. And the second is that a charter petition is really the governing document of that school. And the people who sign that charter petition, the parents or the teachers who are saying, yes, we're interested, they're interested in what as it's described there. And if there's not a lot of detail there, and then if the number one might not know what they were signing on to. And number two, later on, there can be all kinds of things that are done at the school that no one really anticipated because there just wasn't enough detail in there to set it forth. So those are the legal standards in terms of reviewing the charter petition and determining whether or not you're going to grant or deny the petition. Thirdly, and I don't mean to take up a lot of time here, but I thought these are important points for you to keep in mind as you're going through this process, is what it means to be a chartering entity. If a charter is granted, you become the oversight entity who has supervisory responsibilities. And that includes making sure that certain reports are filed in a timely fashion, monitoring the fiscal condition of the school. There is also kind of implied obligation to call any violations to their attention, or if it's been called to your attention, to ask them to correct those violations. That's because the oversight agency has the authority to revoke a charter, but it's after a long process, such as giving them notice of their violations and opportunity to cure and correct. And then there's a hearing, and then it's a big, long process. But there is that obligation, essentially, or the power that the board would have as an oversight agency. The board would also be responsible for reviewing any material revisions to the charter. Whenever a material revision is made, it has to go to the chartering entity that granted it to review. And at that time, you look at it in the context of all these questions I just reviewed again. So you look at whether or not those revisions satisfy those. Also, renewals. If a charter is granted, it can be up to 5 years initially, and then after that, renewals are 5 years. And so whenever the initial petition expires or is up for expiration, this process happens again. There's a renewal petition, and then there's an analysis. So those are all kind of part of the roles of the board or the district as an oversight agency, should they ultimately become one with this or other charter schools. Part of that too is a potential for liability, and that's just that's just kind of a reality. When a charter school is granted, there is a provision in the law that says if it's a nonprofit, if it's incorporated as a nonprofit public benefit corporation, and that's an option charter schools have, then the board is not liable for the debts and obligations of the charter school so long as they carry out their supervisory responsibilities properly. So this big so far as. So all those things I mentioned in terms of the implicit oversight response, either express or implied oversight responsibilities come into play, because anything that they do wrong, you could be held liable if you haven't done your oversight properly. So that's why it's important to know that when you're an oversight agency, you need to fulfill these responsibilities properly. I think that's, the other thing also, special education is one area where it expressly says the oversight agency is responsible along with them for ensuring that all special education students are served properly. Whether that's by you or by the outside agency or however that's structured, that does fall on the granting agency as well. So do you have any questions about procedure at this point or the legal standard?
Is there a minimum number of years that we can, that we must determine whether we accept their application or not? Because you said that it could be up to a maximum of 5, right?
That's right. It says up to 5. There is no minimum. I have never seen it go lower than 2 or 3 years. And that's actually a very good question, because at the time of a renewal at 5 years, or let's say at 3 years, part of a charter school cannot be renewed unless it meets certain academic criteria. And part of that is like 2 years of API scores you're looking at, and you won't have that unless you've had like at least 3 or 4 years. I don't know exactly the timing on that. But that's one kind of downside of granting a charter for too short a period of time. On the other hand, I've seen it done where it's okay, we're going to see how this goes for 3 years, and because we're not, we want to review it at that time. A revocation, by the way, can happen at any time. Yeah. So there's a non-renewal would be at the, you
And
know,
that would
or
be
either
revocation.
renew or not renew would be at that particular time. But revocation can happen anytime if there are violations of law, violations of the charter, fiscal mismanagement. There's certain grounds for a revocation after a process that takes place.
Thank you.
Any other procedural questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
And now we will have the presenter's presentation. Yes, 15.
I had it set at 15.
Okay, thank you. I'm Keith Musieli Johnson. I'm the president of Big Picture Schools California, which is the petitioner for this. Our school is called the Tom Wathen Center Big Picture Aviation Academy, a bit of a mouthful, but it really captured the pedigree of the organizations that work with us to bring this about. The Tom Wathen Center, which you may know, is the owner of Flaibot Airport, and runs significant educational program for middle school, high school, and adults on the airport. And Big Picture comes from Big Picture Learning, which is a national nonprofit which developed the educational design. We have here tonight the CEO of the Tom Wathen Center, co-director and founder of Big Picture Learning, who will really come up in a minute to provide some additional words behind what I'm saying. We are a nonprofit in California, so that relates to the issue of you're responsible for oversight, but if we do all of that well, then your liability is somewhat limited. Big Picture Schools California operates 2 other charters in the state right now and supports 9 other Big Picture charters. Big Picture Learning as a national organization supports a lot more, and Leah Marshall will speak to that. The issue of 3 years, 5 years, we know that well because one of our schools was chartered for 5 years in Los Angeles, one for 3 years in Fresno. Last spring we went through the renewal on the Fresno school, which was in 3 years, and it was actually that element, how to develop documentation short of when we're required to meet certain state standards to justify a 5-year renewal, and we did that successfully. You have a charter petition which goes through all of the elements in a lot of detail. I've been involved in a number of charters before, and I think this is the most explicit, longest one I've ever put together. So you'll find a lot of detail, and we're happy to take questions at any level on that for you. Back to the pedigree question. So the Tom Wathen Center is really devoted to education surrounding aviation, and Bill will describe that a lot more eloquently than I will. But they use aviation largely as a means of capturing the interest of young people to hook them into learning more subjects. So the way I think about it, it's a hook into the STEM subjects. Now, Big Picture Learning is a really interesting and unique model for education. It does a few things. First, it's centered on the individual student, so every student gets a learning plan. So it's not centered on the classroom where you sort of put them through predefined steps. We really look at each student and decide in what order, at what level of detail. Now we do that, but of course we meet fully the California standards and the UC A through G standards. And I think go well beyond that. Big Picture Learning is involved in many efforts with universities and other districts to evaluate their programs and really be quantitative about how well they work. So we're quite familiar with that. So if you keep in mind, Big Picture has a few elements that are key. One is that they're personalized education plans, so it focuses on individual students. Now that has something to do with the kind of students we try to attract. Because while I think this may be the best educational approach for all people, I wish I had a school like that, but really we're focused on students who are not flourishing in traditional schools. So if a student's flourishing and doing great and knows they want to be a mathematician and they're really focusing on those subjects, they should keep doing that. But students who actually just can't sit still in classrooms, their interest just doesn't get engaged, they don't know why they're there. That's why our paradigm is really sort of flipped on its head. That we focus on the student first, find their interests, develop learning plans around that. Now, that connects to another element. So, in addition to the school side, which fully meets academic requirements, we have a learning through interests, LTI component, we call it. And a major part of LTI is both project-based learning at school, plus internships in the community. So we really feel it's important to develop, to have a student who really is both ready for college or ready for a career, that their high school education, and this is I should have said it in the beginning, a grade 9 through 12 petition, that they both have their fully academic learning covered, but they also have real world experience. So our students know how to write their resumes, they know how to do interviews because they have to do that, they know how to research on internet and through different means to find out, okay, I'm interested in XYZ, where is that in the world and how do I pursue it? So they actually go through that exercise. And then they get internships where they spend some time during the week working in an internship. Now, I want to be clear, that's not like a work study program. That's not the point, because we treat it really seriously. There's a learning plan surrounding the internship. We have expectations of things students will learn, documentation that they'll produce, exhibitions and presentations they'll give based on what they did. But it's really to try to create a whole human being that's really ready for either a 4-year college or a 2-year college or a vocational track based on where. Now, big picture schools, I'll tell you, have an incredible track record of working in low-income, underserved populations and taking populations that typically have low graduation rates, low college application rates, low college acceptance rates, and really raising those rates dramatically. Elliot may give you some statistics on that. So that in a nutshell is sort of the flavor of the education, and I wrote it in a lot of detail. We have a budget that describes that. The budget is, I think, totally realistic, actually a little better now that Prop 30 passed, but in my budget assumed it was going to fail. So I'm feeling pretty good about that right now. And who knows what will happen by next year anyway. So we have a conservative budget. I work with an LA firm called XED who does my back office accounting and modeling, and I work directly with them. So while we have local control at schools and the principal really runs the school, we back it up with a lot of expertise in how you do budgeting, how you be realistic, how you do cash management, which is quite an experience for charters in the state. In this case, we have proposed an independent charter, not a dependent charter. Tell you big picture, works with both in the state and both across the country. And we've had a number of discussions with the district about that, and we actually started off about 50-50 which way it should go. But in this one case, because we added the unique component, or I should say, we were invited in by the Tom Wathen Center to meet what they were doing locally with the big picture model. Here we didn't have really a generic general high school. We had one that was trying to carry off to utilize an area of history in America, an area of technology and engineering, the aviation area. So our school needs actually special facilities, special equipment, access to experts who really teach in that paradigm. So this was one area where we thought we had more flexibility, independent. It wasn't a choice we make easily, because that actually makes it much harder on us. Makes it a lot easier on you in some ways, but harder on us because we have to duplicate some district functions internally. But that's what we have submitted, and we feel good about that and appropriate. Now, I'd like to Now, I presume since we've described in the petition to you how we do special ed, and I mean, we have experience working with both district offices and county offices. We have authorized both in handling all of the required elements, so we do that successfully. We don't have problems doing all of the legal things the school needs to do. So I presume since you can read that, I won't spend time on that again. Send us questions if you have them. I'm happy about that. But I would like to bring up my two partners because they can really add what the substance was and provide it. So Bill, if you would come up, CEO of the Tom Wathen Center. And then following Bill, I would ask Elliot Washer, who's a co-director and founder of Big Picture Learning.
Thank you. Thank you, board, for having us. The real substance of what we are attempting to do at Flabob Airport, under the Tom Wathen Center as the owner, is to really amplify and move really forward with this whole focus on STEM education. Now, we have an existing charter school on our airport now, and it is chartered by the River Springs Charter Organization. And that charter school has proved to be very helpful to us over the past several years. However, we wanted to do a little bit more focus on really the big picture model, because we felt that that focus on serving individual students, particularly in the area of the STEM process, and using the one key phrase in our mission statement, we use the fascination of flight to inspire lifelong learning. And we have so many results of that you're all welcome to look into what we've done over the past several years. The partnership with Big Picture California and Big Picture Learning is one that we have looked at for several years. This is not something that we came to a conclusion briefly. We've been evaluating what has transpired with the River Springs relationship. We have looked at the kinds of things we've done for enrichment in almost every of the school's activity on our campus. And we made a decision about a year ago to move into our own charter application so that we could do things that are really well beyond what we can ever achieve with the River Springs organization. We have thought also through the fact of expanding that charter school operation with River Springs because we really need to serve more students. Right now we have 120 students at our school on the campus, and we really want to go to 250 to 300 students. And our student base at the present school is pretty diverse in terms of geography. I'm sure many of the students that go to our school are in the Jurupa Unified area, but they are also in many other areas, Riverside Unified, Alvord. We even have students as far as San Juan Capistrano, Loma Linda, and in various parts of the Inland Empire. So our base is pretty widespread, and I believe in the growth of our school, it will continue to look at much more widespread geography than we presently have now, particularly with our reputation. We do have a worldwide reputation for what we've done with students from the aviation standpoint. Very much focused on their credibility and their growth and development to academies that the military runs, to programs in the FAA and the like. So we're very, very motivated and committed to make this charter school the best that we can. We love Jurupa Unified. We have had good relationships with your superintendent, and one person that is a very special person in my mind is your assistant superintendent, Paul Gill, whose life has been in aviation and understands pretty much everything I've just said from A to Z. And so our heart is with partnering with Jurupa Unified, and I'm here to ask you to consider it very deeply because we feel it will be a wonderful relationship to have, and we can grow together in a very special way. Elliot, I think, can kind of sum up the big picture of learning, because I think it's important to know how much research that we put into this for several years. Elliot?
Before you hand over the microphone, could I have you state your first and last name for the record, for the recording? Thank you.
It's William Sawin, S-A-W-I-N, President and CEO of the Tom Wathen Center.
Thank you. And could I have you do the same before you start?
Yeah, Elliot Washer, co-director and co-founder of Big Picture Learning, a not-for-profit organization nationally. I don't know if I have any more than 30 seconds on 15 minutes. But
you got 5, and that's because I...
5 seconds?
No, 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bob said I was 20 by accident.
I was clocking it too.
My bad.
Oh, okay. So I'll give you a little history about Big Picture. I've been in education for 40 years, and since 1996, myself and co-director Dennis Lippy started a school in Providence, Rhode Island, with 50 families and of course their students. And 4 years later, with the program that was described by Bill, and as we grew, because we were not a charter, but a line item school. We were a state-operated school district as a line item in the state legislature. That was our first school. And 4 years later, we had a 96% of our students going to college and a 4% dropout rate compared to Providence, which had over a 40% dropout rate and probably 50% of their students going to college, and they were the same students. And at that time, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation came along and visited our school and kicked our tires and said, you're working in the toughest section of Providence and you built a really unique facility. We would like you to do schools all over the United States. So we proceeded to say, okay, that's, all of a sudden we don't have our hands on things, and we're pretty much hands-on people. So we decided to take up the challenge, and we built and designed and helped develop schools in districts and communities where we have over 50 schools in the United States and another 50 around the world. We have schools in Australia and Canada, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Ireland, Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania, coming up this year. We have instantiations of our schools in South Korea and in Israel. We've been recognized by administrations going through for the last 16 years, and been recognized and won the All Means All Award numerous times for special needs populations. We have schools abutting reservations where the graduation rate was probably around 15%. All of our students graduated. We have schools in Camden, New Jersey, where the graduation rate is 13%. 100% of our students graduated. So we go to places that are difficult. We have a school in Los Angeles that is a charter school, but not part of Big Picture Charter, called New Village. It's all girls, all adjudicated, 70% of the children, and we're doing very, very well with our population of students. So we're an organization that meets very, very tough challenges and keeps very, very high standards, as what was mentioned. We have A through G course approval. We are one of, I think, 2 or 3 organizations in California that has a 700-page matrix to meet the A through G course approval, which allows students to get their courses through project-based learning and internships and college courses. We've had students go to all the UCs. I don't know all the state colleges, but I know all the UCs, and they've gone to many state colleges as well as community colleges, because we're a school that serves all students. We've had students go to private liberal arts colleges from California all over the United States, and we take our work very, very seriously. We have an advisory system for every student, as Keith says, a learning plan, and we have grown, although it sounds like a lot, 50 schools in 16 years. That's not a lot of schools. We grow very slowly. We take our time. We're about quality. This is very, very hard work, as you all know, and we try to keep our standards very, very high. The Thomas Watson group, we've known them for many, many years, and we've always been interested in looking at aviation as an ecology. So not just air traffic controllers and pilots, but what really actually happens at the airport that students could get interested in all across the field, or what happens in the industry where planes are being manufactured and constructed, and how does that lead to other pieces of challenging and good work for students as they're in high school and upon graduation, following them through to college and to their careers. So I don't think I have any more time left, but thank you very much.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll take public comment on the petition. Just set it on the shelf. Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment?
Hello, how are you?
Wait until you get up, take the microphone, state your name, please, and then
Eugene
you'll have
Crutcher,
3 minutes.
Parent. How are you doing, board? Thank you for your time. I'm excited. My sons, Dorian and Michael, who sits in the audience, we've been a part of Jurupa for the better part since 2000. And I've been with Rotary, a lot of different organizations, but when we moved away, after elementary, we went through this wonderful Indian Hills Elementary, just the greatest education. We thank you guys for what you do. I was over at Poly. I don't want to say anything about Riverside, but I was at Poly, and my 2 sons, I know them. And I just know that their education was very important to me. And when I thought about where they should go, I remember about the Tom Watkins Foundation in their school, and about aviation. We decided to place them there. Now I'm going to tell you, I would love them to speak because I couldn't have made a better decision. The combination of what this school has done for my sons is absolutely incredible. STEM, just think about that. This is not bringing kids, and I don't want to repeat because you did say that, but these kids that have been interested in this school are coming from all over because they're hearing what they're doing at this school. The combination of meeting with pilots, working on an airport, hands-on, learning about things that we know are our future, science, technology, math, and engineering. And then they're getting interested in that. Transformed my sons. Right now they're in a position from 4.0 and up. They're doing the most wonderful thing. I can't speak enough about everybody's grandpa. Dr. Tom Watkins and Mr. John Lyon. I just say this, I beg of you to really consider this. This is bringing kids from all ethnic and social and economic backgrounds to this area. It is an opportunity for this area to grow, not take away from. I don't want to spend too much time. I would love for you guys to ask any questions of me, but also hear from my sons and what their experience is being involved in such a wonderful school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name is Dorian Crutcher. I'm a senior at the Playbob Airport Preparatory Academy, or soon to be changed. But within my 4 years of going to the Playbob Airport Preparatory Academy, I have been blessed to actually be in a school that involves aviation. I don't know many other kids in the nation who gets to experience that. I've been very involved in the airport itself. I was able, in my experience, I made some great friends there. Everybody's very nice, very close because of how how small the school is. So we all get to interact with each other very efficiently and very well. It's very interesting being there because in my involvement, I was able to learn how to marshal airplanes. I've flown in airplanes. I've seen kids fly. I've escorted kids. I get to see their smile on their faces. The school changed my life because I was had trouble in school before, but like you know, I committed myself to schoolwork, and when I came to this school, I became the president of the National Honor Society this year. Last year I was vice president, and the year before that I just, you know, was a member entering it. So, you know, it changed my life completely. This school and just all the people in it, all the teachers. You might see Ms. Dahmer inside the crowd there, behind my dad. So, you know, I love the school, love it very much. Very thankful to be here. Very thankful to have been in, you know, great education, and you know, just thank you for hearing me, and you know, thank you for. Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Michael Kretcher. I'm a junior at Playbob Aviation Preparatory Academy. Well, I'd like to talk to you about my experience at the school. I walked in as wanting to be a career in art and in animation. About 2 years later, I've been there for about 4 years. I had a career change. I went to become a commercial pilot through Playbob. That school has made a very big impact, in my view, as my future. I do believe that big picture learning will be able to bring a huge change, a very positive change at that, to Playbob, and that would be a very big thing to me. I've made very good friends and met very great people and had a huge amount of experiences there that I wouldn't have been able to dream of. Playbob has done a lot for me, and I would like you guys to very much consider the possibility of adding big picture learning to them. I know that a lot of my teachers, seniors, and staff at Playbob would very much appreciate it as well. That's all I have to say, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi, I'm Gabe Baumer, and I've taught at Playbob Airport Preparatory Academy, and it is an amazing school. The students there, I'm so proud of them. They have won science fair. They've won at the state and district level. They are amazing students, and it's because when you take a student's passion, it's when you take somebody's passion and you make that part of their learning, they become enthusiastic. And it makes that is the big difference. It's that attitude that they have towards learning. And that's what these people are doing here at the Tom Watson Center. And they've just done so much for these students. And the internships are just amazing. These students' faces light up that they're able to go out into the community and do something that they never dreamed that they'd be able to do otherwise. They're working in dentist's office. We had one of my interns worked at a political headquarters. I've had students that work in the performing, one is with the Riverside Children's Theater, helping out with makeup and wardrobe. They're just so excited about doing these, and it makes the difference. And that's why something like Big Picture is so successful. That's why their students are graduating, because they've got that enthusiasm. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
This is old territory for me. As some of you know, I served here for 11 years on the Blue Ribbon Committee,
and enjoyed very much working with the school district as we shape the future, as my dear friends know. I want to simply say a few words about the family at Playbob, because the internships that are spoken about are really amplified by the kind of relationships students have with the variety of skills and experience found in the community. Why waste all the experience and wisdom of our older people? We don't waste it at Playbob. We put it to work. We try to help guide young people. And that's one of the things that Elliot Washor has emphasized in his training. Elliot is particularly modest. He is regarded as perhaps the guru of secondary education in this nation. He didn't point out that the Bill Gates Foundation gave him $20 million, even though he didn't ask for it. So, but the kind of organization we want to associate here with is a premier organization. And I wanted to simply say that I hope that this relationship that we've had, I've had with many of your students, I've married some of your students. I took them, for example, a couple of them as interns. We took them out of their gangs and we turned them into productive citizens. And then one of them said, "Would you marry my girlfriend to me?" Sure. So we do all kinds of things. And I think that we want this relationship to continue. We think very highly of this school district and of your leadership. We think that the marriage is made in heaven, and we should continue that marriage through the school board decision to allow us to proceed with our charter school. My name is Art Peterson, and I didn't used to have a cane 11 years ago, but time has a way of changing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing no one else coming up, we'll move on to item 6. Are there any clarifying questions from the board?
Just a comment, Madam President, if I may. I'm familiar with the Tom Watson Foundation, the Tom Watson Center, and the fabulous work they've done over the years and the reputation that they have. And I had also a brief opportunity to work with Playbob Airport in the program there several years ago when I was principal at West Riverside School, in a partnership that involved our students from our district going there to Playbob and learning some preliminary skills. And so it's exciting to see the school taking off in such a positive direction in existence there, and glad to hear the information you presented here to the board tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other? All right, with that then, the board will reconvene and act on this petition on Monday, January 22nd, 2013, and any further deliberations by the board prior to acting on this matter will be held in open sessions and in conformance with all requirements of the Brown Act. This public hearing on the Tom Watson Center Big Picture Aviation Academy petition is now closed. All right, and now we will move on to discussion session. And at the October 15th, 2012 board meeting, Trustee Schaefer requested the following items be placed on the agenda. And so at this time, Mr. Schaefer, I will turn it over to you to let us know what you would like to discuss on it, and we can go on from there.
Well, at our retreat this afternoon, 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we discussed policy regarding thefts and break-ins, and the board members would like that those notifications in our Friday letters. Item D, the wearing of kirpans. I was not aware that there was going to be an action item, so I'm going to hold my comments till we get to item H. And as far as item C, Discussion of policy regarding teachers, custodians, and employees protecting themselves when working late night hours at schools. Basically, it's a union issue item. It's got to be negotiated, if I'm correct. It has to be negotiated through the union. So I will have my comments on the Kirpan when we get to item H. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. All right, then we will move on to action session. Approve routine action items by consent. Items A1 through 9 as printed.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Harris and a second by Mrs. Burns. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item D, page 7. Approve Head Start procedures for eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance plan, and the revision of the 2012-13 roadmap. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. These are the Head Start procedures. There been no major changes other than the 2012-13 entry date for kindergarten. So we recommend that you approve the procedures for eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance plan and revision.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mrs. Burns. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item C, approve state preschool continued funding application for school year 2013-2014. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The first one was Federal Head Start. It's a state preschool. It's our continued funding application for next year. We recommend that you approve the state preschool continued funding application for the school year 2013-14.
Second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Burns and a second by Mr. Mendez. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item D, approve purchase of mechanical dock levelers for the new warehouse facility. Mr. Gill.
Yes, ma'am, this is something with the size of the various trucks. All trucks have different capacities and fit slightly differently into our docks. This expedites things and makes it safer for all of the trucks that come in. We've gone out and received bids. The lowest responsible bid is from Arbonne. So administration recommends the board approve the purchase of mechanical dock levelers for the new warehouse facility. It will be paid for. They will be paid for through restricted cafeteria funds.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Burns and a second by Mr. Mendez. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item E, review and or act on the Jurupa Unified School District inter-district transfer policy. Mr. Gill.
Yes, ma'am. This is a policy issue for you, and we're asking for direction. We have, over the course of many years, Jurupa has had an open door policy both in and out of the district for inter-district transfers. We have sustained less losses, net losses, that is far more students leaving the district than coming into the district, and that has exacerbated over the last few years. Part of this is attributed to Corona Norco schools that are very close. There are several schools that are very close to our district and close to our population. The net loss for this current year was 337 students. If you count every state and federal source of money and that were applied to each student, the total loss per student is $7,778. The total net revenue loss for the entire 337 students, therefore, would be $2,621,407. And a word of caution, if you would decide to deny transfer students going out, the students' parents still have the right to go to RCOE, and the board can overturn your decision there. So we want to ask you whether staff should deny outgoing student transfers. If you do decide to do that, we would recommend that you do that at certain levels. In other words, if someone were in elementary school, we would wait until they were to transfer into middle school. If they were in middle school and already enrolled there, we would recommend you wait until they ask for transfer into high schools. And that's the current way. The county would like to have you operate if you choose to do that, and the state as well.
All right, I'll open it up to discussion. Mr. Harris?
I want to be very careful to the board how I approach the subject, because I want you to believe that it's in the interest of the district and the children of the district that I present my thoughts on it. One has to take a look, I think, at the reasons why families leave and whether or not this prohibits them from doing so in a way that would make it more reasonable for them to stay. If children are leaving because, and I believe Mr. Duchamp made the assessment when it was brought up before that we believe that children, a good majority of them, leave because parents, due to working circumstances, work out in that area, and so they have their children attending schools in that area because it's easier for them to drop off and pick up, as many families have both parents who work. If that was to be denied to them, that would place an additional burden on the family. While it would save us ADA, I'm not sure it would present goodwill to those families who have that particular challenge, and not sure if that's something that as a school district we want to fight for. I'm not sure the dollars that would be associated with that are quite worth it. If it's for other reasons other than education, again, I think we fall into that same situation. If parents are taking their children out for reasons other than quality of education, by denying them the ability to do that doesn't change that circumstance. The circumstance remains the same. The parents have the same challenge, and now you've taken on a fight that I'm not sure, again, that the or the district really wants to take on or should take on for the ADA sake. On a fiscal side of this, I think the board has to be cautious for this particular reason. In 2009, the Senate passed a bill that allowed district of choice labels to be placed on districts. It was reestablished as something that would be preferable for those who wanted to do it. Riverside Unified School District just recently has labeled themselves as a district of choice. And this is a document that's off of their website. And if you'll allow me, I just want to read the paragraph so that you understand what it says. It says, RUSD is a district of choice and welcomes families living outside RUSD boundaries to submit district of choice transfer requests for the 2013-2014 school year between November 1st, 2012 and January 1st, 2013. As a designated district of choice, any K-12 student may apply to attend Riverside schools even if RUSD is not their home district. Per state law, which they're referring to Senate bill, I think it's 609, I'm not confident of that, but it's a Senate bill. Per state law, a student's home district may not prevent district of choice transfers into the Riverside Unified School District. The district of choice option is available to any student who does not live within the RUSD boundaries but is interested in attending RUSD schools for the 2013-2014 school year. Admission to the district through a district of choice transfer does not guarantee students a place at their school of choice. However, every effort will be made to accommodate specific school requests. And then it directs them to a phone number that they can call with questions. So a district of choice then, based on Senate bill law passed in 2009, says that they are willing to accept any child with or without permission of the districts that are nearby. And the difference being that if a child is misbehaving or doesn't do very well, if it's approved by the district, then they can send the child back to the district. If they're a district of choice district, though, they can't send them back. They have to keep them or do whatever a district does, as we know, with children that are problems. The percentage of children that transfer out, however, that have a need to go back are infantile. Not very many at all. So it's a very, very small percentage. So why am I bringing this up? Well, you've got RUSD And if you look at Corona Norco Unified School District board minutes, you'll see that this is a topic that has been discussed. And part of the commentary is that they didn't want to be the first district to come out and do it, but they're not afraid to be the second. If our district takes a position where we say we're not going to allow our children to transfer, and those who's changed from elementary to middle and middle to high school must come back, then I would be a bit surprised if parents whose children are attending don't encourage the board to adopt district of choice policy. If they do that, and we're sandwiched between two district of choice districts, I think that the loss financially is going to be insurmountable compared to what it is today. Now, I say this again with all earnestness about the concern of the district. I have 4 children that attend this district. I love this district. I love the schools. I can and will, when board member comments, speak of the positive nature of the things that happen with my children in this district. I think fiscally it's a mistake. I think if we do that, I realize we have ADA that's been leaving. I realize it's because of close proximity C at Corona Norco Unified School District. But the reasons these children are leaving aren't going to be mitigated. And we're going to do 2 things. We're going to ask for a fight, and we're going to encourage Corona Norco Unified School District to make a choice that right now they're not making the choice of, but have had the discussions, and I would submit that I believe they're ready to make that decision if put in that position. So I'd like the board to seriously consider that.
Mr. Mendez.
I agree entirely with what my colleague has said here. I am still concerned though with that's a large amount of money, $2 or $2.5 million in loss for something that could be definitely used for our students in our district. A thought that crossed my mind, because I definitely wouldn't want to go the route of direction that Carl indicated, because it does take such serious consideration in terms of the impact that he has just described. My thought was, though, in light of the loss in revenue into our district, whether we might be able to explore more carefully and in more detail the reasons as to why families are leaving. I know that we have the forms, and I know they do indicate their reasons, such as childcare, employment, and other related items, which are very legitimate. But I would like to see if there's any way at all that we could find ways to retain students, the large amount especially that is transferred out of our district, and find ways to retain them rather than approaching it on the negative end and preventing them. Again, I don't feel at this point that that would be the proper approach.
Mr. Schaefer.
A parent has a right to send their child wherever they, if they feel they're going to have better education in another district, they have that right. The quality of education today is so important to a parent. When the numbers came out a couple meetings back, the reasons for leaving are so important. Are they leaving because of their jobs are in other areas, other counties, other districts? Or is it because they don't feel they're getting a quality, that their children are getting a quality education at Jurupa Unified School District? The challenge will be to convince them that they are getting a quality education here. There's been issues over the years, mainly Focus for Success. We have to tap our greatest resource we have, and that is our teachers. They're very passionate. Some of the strategies we have at the district, in their opinion, could use some tweaking. We have to listen to them. They're not always right, we're not always right. But we have to work together, because this is a lot of money to lose, and it's going to, the spigot is going to, the flow is going to get much larger if we can't figure it out. Specifically, why are they leaving? We have to specifically find out. Other than that, we're in the fog as to what to do unless you really know why. So, but as a parent, okay, Carl, you don't have to answer this, but I don't know if currently one of your children are in Corona Narco. What if the district says no, they can't go there, you got to bring them back? How do you feel about that? I mean, you may be in that situation, I don't know. That would be interesting.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the question, Mr. Schaefer, and I don't mind answering it. My son, if we told him he needed to come back, he would be fine with coming back. But we sent our son over to another school in another district for a very specific reason that had really very little to do with the quality of education that's taking place here in the district. We felt like there was an opportunity on a personal level for that child to grow in ways that he could not grow, following in the footsteps of his brothers and in the family path that's been laid here in this. He was a straight A student here, and he was just awarded the honor roll in a new district in the school he's at. He's a straight A student there. So his quality of education, his performance has remained the same. I personally, though, am one where I believe that we can offer, as you suggested, a brand of education that would want parents to keep their children here. And I believe that we do really, I think in Elliott, we've talked about this, I don't think we do a good enough job communicating the wonderful things that we do here. I believe if we presented that to families and we provided and looked at, and I agree, looking at those specific reasons why they're leaving, and then finding ways to be able to help that. Again, if it's a drop-off situation, or it's a financial hardship, or those type of things, maybe there are ways. Parents can, we carpool, we commute, we do all kinds of things to help these things. Maybe there's a way to provide transportation and care at the school or before or after. So I think there are ways that we can offer and reach out, as been suggested, to help families who have a need beyond education or personal growth to go. But I always believe that parents should have a right to choose. It's my philosophy that even though you may not always choose or want to be able to live where you live today, the economy sometimes is choosing that location for a lot of people. But a parent should be able to strive to get the best education they can for their children. And the principal of the elementary school that we go to, when we first went there, Ellen French, she said, fight for your education for your children. Fight for it. Well, as a parent, and we have laws in the state of California which suggest that if we don't like this school in this district, we have the right as a parent to put them in a different school. And so I don't think, to answer your question, as a parent, I would like to have that choice. And I would like to be part of a district that reaches out and solves my problems, not creates problems for me.
Mrs. Burns?
Leave it to me to talk about an elephant in the room. I believe that if we were to look at the socioeconomics of two parents working and they want to take their kids to another district, that if we were to do a study on those leaving our district, I don't think it would be just because they find that another district is better than us. I think we're pretty real good. Did you see me catch that one? I think we're really good. I think that what we're looking at is socioeconomics, and it's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to mention. And I believe if we did a study on socioeconomics that are tied to the students leaving our district, if two parents are working, that's not standard here in Jurupa. I live in a district, or in a school boundary area where we have 98% free and reduced lunch. I don't think you're going to find that in Corona Narco. So I think that if, I agree with my colleagues. I don't know that I'm ready for this. and the least I would do would be to ask that it be pulled off for better discussion from staff, and then if you feel it needs to come back to us at another time, I'd like to have more information, specifically the socioeconomics of those that have left our district. And I think that you'll find those that can afford an SUV to transport their children are the ones that are not walking them to the schools for lunch. So I myself would request that this item be pulled from the agenda. It sounds like to me that we're going to be a minimum of 4 that are opposed to this, and I need more information. So, can I move this item be pulled?
It's not necessary. If you look at the item, it's after discussion, the board should direct staff. So,
well, there I did. I'm directing you to propose pulling it.
The board as a whole, Mrs. Burns. Oh, sorry. I'd like to make a couple of comments about this. This is, we debated a lot about this, and staff, I mean, and whether this should come to the board at all, because I will tell you there is, I was going to say nothing worse. We really don't particularly want to keep people hostage in a district they don't want to be in. A lot of times there are different reasons people move out of a district. Sometimes they can see a school from their backyard, and we have a large number of students right now that are bused 6 or 7 miles to Pedley School. Proximity has a lot to do with it. That's why it's in the western portion of the district. It is truly the intent of the legislature to provide an opportunity for parents to have a choice of where to send their students. I think on balance, if you looked at it in depth, you might find it was in fact tied to the ability of parents to take their kids to that school. But I want to say a couple of things. We did not bring this with a particular interest in the board going in one direction or another. However, we wanted also not to have you come back a year from now when we said there was a trend and not have given you the option to at least discuss this option. Corona is going through their open enrollment process in the next couple months. I was going to say a couple other things. We do not track people's reasons for inter-districts. Generally, we do. I thought some of them said nothing. Was it voluntary?
We ask. Yes, we do ask for it, and we get it on most occasions.
Okay.
And it's never
based
on academic performance. It's always for the reasons you cited. It's due to a job or due to daycare in most all instances. Whether that's perfectly honest or not, we have no way of knowing, but they're the reasons they give us.
Yeah, okay. Stand corrected. I was thinking we did on intra, but not inter, but we do on both. The other thing is, I don't believe we ever try to talk people out of leaving the district either, because we've had a fairly open policy. We could provide a questionnaire, I suppose, that said, would you like to talk to somebody before you transfer? Or, and they could say no.
Like canceling your cable.
Yeah, right. Or Survey Monkey or something like that. But so again, this is truly was brought to the board for your discussion, and because it would be a strong policy decision on the part of the board. What we will do, absent board action, is try to track this a little bit closer and see if we can get a better handle on it, and what happens ultimately.
I think that would be a good idea to track it a little more carefully and maybe have more precise information, not to go again the direction, at least in my mind, of prohibiting transfers from leaving our district, but trying to find ways to, as has been stated here several times in different ways, finding ways to helping families live within our district and be in our schools with any support that might be being able to provide by us here at the district to make it more feasible for them to remain in our district.
If I could then, Madam President, I'd like to ask you to have this entire discussion tabled until we're ready to discuss with you the possibility of a new elementary school over on the West End. as things begin to grow, because you may want to revisit that then if it's why spend money building a school over there if in fact don't do everything we can to encourage people in the West End to attend a neighborhood school. It may be that we live with portables for much longer, and that may not be amenable to you at that time, as opposed to building a new neighborhood school in the area where we're seeing growth. And we look at our employees and we look at our teachers. We believe, like you do, that we have teachers that are every bit the equal of Corona Norco, and we need to convince our parents of that they get as good an educational experience here as they do across the highway.
And I'd like to ask that before it comes back that you kind of do a comparison of like districts, because we're comparing this to no other districts, so we don't know if this is high or low to other districts, to give us a better idea of, you know, if it is truly because of job situations, daycare, and that I would think there's going to be kind of a similar representation of other districts.
We will attempt to do that. I will tell you, that particular thing may not be an easy task because the information might not be forthcoming from other districts.
All right, so what is the pleasure of the board? Mr. Harris?
I'd like to recommend that we put this away until further discussion is required or needed based on the board's recommendation at the future date.
Okay, it's just a consensus, it's not a vote, so do I have everybody's
bottom
all right, Mr. Schaefer?
Are there other school districts that are having more exit than enter that
Yes,
you're aware of?
Yes, sir. Menifee, for one, and they've closed their doors.
All right, so we will table that until a later date, undetermined, and we will move on to item F, resolution number 2013-17, emergency resolution to repair the gas line at West Riverside Elementary School. Mr. Gill.
Move for approval. I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item G, approve at a first reading new board policy and administrative regulation 5145.2, freedom of speech expression. Mr. Duchamp.
This particular policy actually takes your existing policy 5140, renumbers it in conformance with CSBA, and includes freedom of expression on the internet. And I think a couple of other factors, so we would recommend approval.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item H, adopted a first reading, new administrative regulation and exhibit 5145.21, freedom of expression, religious symbols. And we do have one public comment on this, Ms. Sober.
Do I have to turn this off?
Please.
Okay.
Sorry. I think it is on, just need to talk.
All right.
I actually did plan on coming to the board meeting tonight. It's not because I've had the occasion to see all of you outside, and that was a rough situation out there, and I appreciate that so many staff came out to help. The strangest part was I was the only witness that saw that accident that stopped. And there was a car in front of me, and there were other cars on the road. So it was difficult for me because I can't believe the humanity of people that would walk away from that accident.
Creepy.
It was rough. I came tonight because I've been hearing and I saw in the paper about this item coming before the board, and I really went back and forth because my children also don't go to this district anymore. And one of the reasons is safety, to be honest. Elementary school safety. And it's funny because when you guys were asking the question, there was a form. I was very shocked when I filled out my form. They stamped it approved and handed me my form at the same second. And it took me longer in the other school district to get approval because it goes through a whole process. And I thought it was rather strange that we don't review anything, because really you don't have a pulse on why are people moving districts, like you were saying. So just to speak back to that, I would hope that you would take a survey and ask people what some of the concerns are, or what would have allowed them. A concern for me is having a middle school student that's left alone until 11 o'clock when they start on Wednesdays. Teenagers, that's the last place they need to be, is alone or hanging out in a park with no adult supervision, but that's another discussion. My concern about the Kirpan is I just want to make sure that we have religious tolerance in our community, that we respect sacred religious beliefs of people. And I think that this going into the newspaper and having these hearings has kind of sensationalized it. And I do worry because in one of the statements it talks about that, we'll protect students from being harassed, intimidated, provocation. And I think we put a big target on these kids because I think prior to, we just would look that some of the Indian students in our community dress differently. And I have the pleasure to have lots of friends who are Indian. However, I didn't know about the 5 sacred items. And I kind of feel like we took some of that sacredness away from how they practice their religion. And it does appear that the district has made accommodations for them and some requirements. So even though safety is a concern for me as a parent, and my child will be back at Patriot next year, we're just not doing middle school here. This is not a concern for myself. It's not a concern for my family. But I am concerned that we would apply safety rules evenly to everyone. Something as simple as kids that wear a 3-inch cross on their chest, that can be used as a weapon. So where do we draw the line where we decide? And I just do not want these families to feel persecuted. And if they've taken the step in their faith to be able to wear these items, they're sacred to them. And I would like the district to respect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ober. Mrs. Burns.
I feel like I had a private conversation with her because I think the comments that she made is the comments that I actually made to the press enterprise, right down to the religious cross. And no, we did not have a conversation, but I mean, my thoughts were along in that process. So, but I wasn't the one that put this on the agenda, so I'll let the board member that actually.
No, it wasn't the board member.
This is Mr. Staff? Oh, I'm first then. Okay.
Well, do you want Mr. Duchamp to do the briefing first?
It's fine with me.
Thank you. First of all, I just not related to the item. I'm sorry, but I'd like to thank Mrs. Ober because when we went out, there were 2 people, 1 person attending to a person who was badly injured, and Mrs. Ober. I did not realize other people drove by. I was appalled though by the people driving by the accident, cutting off ambulances and stuff. So, just on the side, thank you. This comes to the board, and I agree with it. I don't necessarily want to comment necessarily on people's comments, but this has been something that's received a great deal of press. It's a small number of students, unfortunately, who are easily identifiable and who are very committed to their religion. And I have to say, it's coming to the board because those students had courage to come forward, whereas in a number of districts, students wear crepons to school, don't tell anybody, and really we would have known nothing about it. So they were very forthright in their religious beliefs and also very collaborative in terms of their discussions. So we worked with representatives of the Sikh organization, and that's how they pronounce it. I don't quite get it right each time, but and did find that there's a great deal of diversity amongst Sikhs about their 5 religious artifacts, symbols, whatever they may be called. But clearly those representing the students in this district were quite orthodox and firmly believed in the wearing of the kirpan, which posed a dilemma to some of us immediately, and I think Mrs. Burns either now or at other times has voiced the same thing. So this policy is an attempt to respect their religious freedom without compromising the district's uncompromising commitment to protect the safety of students. It allows district staff to inspect the kirpan that's brought to school. It requires that the kirpan be sewn into a sheath so that it is rendered useless as a weapon. So it therefore is not a weapon. It must be less than 2.5 inches, the penal code requirement or definition of a dirk, knife, or dagger. It must be dulled, and it must be strapped to the body and worn unobtrusively. And they have also, the students that have been involved and their parents have voluntarily allowed for us to inspect them really at any time, which is a right we would not normally have, as I'm sure the board's aware. To some extent, this policy echoes current law, but it also provides a greater protection for the district in terms of allowing the inspection, and also makes clearly defined for any students wishing to wear a kirpan in school what the parameters would be. And it has been, we have discussed this with members of the Sikh community, and they seem quite comfortable with it and are amenable to it. Our staff, by the way, just a comment, I might say, I talked to the principal at the school who has been cooperative and just said some of the staff were perplexed why we would even want this, because they're so comfortable with the students who, by their way, are outstanding students. But I would rather err on the side of caution. We believe this is cautious, protects their religious freedom, which we would want to do, and the safety of students. That's really all I have to say at this point.
Thank you. Ms. Burns? I move approval of the administration's recommendation to adopt the first reading, new administrative regulation, exhibit number 4145.21. Did I say it backwards?
5145.
5145, freedom of expression, religious symbols.
I have a comment, Madam President, if I may, before we vote on it.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a motion, we don't have a second, and we have a second from Mr. Harris. And Mr. Mendez.
I just wanted to comment that it's unfortunate that the information that was presented in the newspaper was not really truly representative of the discussions that we had in terms of how we were working in terms of accommodating two rights that sort of come in close proximity of each other, and we have to obviously take consideration both the First Amendment right to practice one's religion in this country and obviously the safety of our students in the school. The picture depicting the kirpan that was in the paper is not what we are recommending that, for our students to wear to our schools. And so it gave the public, I think, the wrong impression of what we were considering in terms of approving for our district. As another testament to that, shortly after that, a letter appeared in the editorial section indicating that how could a school district board of education allow students to bring weapons to school. And that, of course, was never the intention of this board. And it's clearly something that we as the board hold very highly in terms of the district, of students and staff in our district. And we would never do anything to jeopardize that. And so as a board, we've been very deliberate and thoughtful and acquired all the information that we possibly can to make a decision that is in the best interest of both preserving the right of those students to practice their faith and at the same time maintain our students at our school. And I wanted to make sure that that got out there because there are people with misconception in terms of exactly the work that this board has done, and I just wanted to clear up the record. Thank you.
Mr. Schaefer?
This issue was brought to us, we were notified on August 10th in our Friday letter in a confidential memorandum. It was 5 days after 6 Sikhs were killed in Brookfield, Wisconsin near Milwaukee. This first Kirpan agreement, there were two options. One, the Kirpan could be 5.5 to 6 inches long with a 2.5-inch blade as long as it was not easily removed from the sheath. The other option was that the Kirpan could have a 3.5-inch blade and total length of 6.5 to 7 inches. Now, I had questions on this, but this is what came to us. And doing a little research, you know, what we have here is, there are alternatives to accommodate what the Sikhs were trying to accomplish here. This is what we're talking about, a Kirpan. And in the beginning, if this was supposed to be 6.5 inches to 7 inches long with a blade of 3.5, that is a dangerous weapon to me. Whether it's no knife, no dagger, religious or otherwise, should be allowed in school. If this is wrapped in a cloth securing, I fear for the student carrying this, the Sikh student carrying it. He could be jumped, could be removed from him. A knife could remove the cloth strap, and now we've got one of these in the community. Other schools in other countries, even in the United States, instead of wearing this, they wear a pendant, a beautiful pendant. Which is more scary? If I saw this around a student's neck, I would admire it. It's a conversation piece. My issue is safety. It's not about whether or not you're going to deny someone their religious freedoms. That's protected under the 1st and 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. It's embedded within the foundation of what this country was built on, freedom of religious expression. That's not what this was about. There's 2 points I would like to make. There's a dispute within the Sikh community as to whether Kirpan should be allowed in schools. You have the Sikh Council in Australia stating that Kirpan should not be worn at school. They can be worn before school and after school. You have the World Sikh Council saying that the wrapping of the sheath in what we are probably going to approve here tonight, that this wrapping is prohibited. They can't agree. So we, the Jurupa Unified School District, is going to make that decision for them? That's not within our purview. The other point is, there is discussion as to whether this is a symbol or if it is it's a symbol of their faith. They're saying it is not a symbol. But everywhere you read, even this, the 10th guru back in the 1600s referred to the Kirpan as a symbol. In fact, if I may, Guru Gobind Singh, and that's what they're referring to here, back in the 1600s. O symbol of the brave. Let me just say this, read this. Sword, he's referring to the kirpan. Sword that smites in a flash, that scatters the armies of the wicked in the great battlefield. O symbol of the brave, referring to the kirpan. Your arm is irresistible, your brightness shines forth. The splendor of the black dazzles like the sun. Sword, you are the scourge of saints. You are the scourge of the wicked. He's referring to the kirpan as a symbol, and yet certain factions within the Sikh community say, no, you can't refer that to a symbol. If you wrap it the way we are asking it to be wrapped, you are now, unbelievably, turning it into a symbol. So, where do we stand? We're going to make that decision, the Jurupa Unified School District Board of Trustees. It is legal under Ed Code. I still oppose wearing any type of knife like this in a school district. So it's a dispute that has been going on for a long time. Other districts in the United States and in the world allow paper kirpans to be worn. Kirpans in Europe encased in resin. Others wear these beautiful pendants. Symbolic kirpans are attached to one of the 5 Ks, which is the comb. The kirpan is banned in Denmark, Italy, the Maldives. There's restrictions on it in Sweden and France, and it's banned in a school district in Michigan. So it's not that we're trying to stop anyone from expressing their religious freedom. It's a safety issue. Sometimes freedom of religion is given broad protection, but in some settings, security of all is the priority. That's how I feel about it.
All of you have gotten a chance. Now it's me, and then I'll go back to you. First, it's not up to us to make a decision for any religion of what is right or wrong or what that religion will follow. Our duties here as board members is to set policy and to make sure that that policy is within the law and agreeable to accommodate their religious rights. I believe this does that. Penal code says that a knife is more than 2.5 inches long. No, and Ed code says 3.5 inches. 2.5 inches is below all of those codes, so I feel it is appropriate. The picture that you present to us tonight is nothing like the kirpan that was presented to us and that will be carried by the students. I think it's sensationalism to use that. The picture that was in the press enterprise in the hands of the woman was the kirpan that we are discussing. It is shorter than 6 inches long in total. The blade itself, that is dull, is less than 2 inches because the sheath that the knife was in, the kirpan is in, is 2.5 inches long. The sects are doing everything that we have asked them to do. I think it is their freedom of religion is being accommodated, and we are doing that, and they are abiding by our rules. To say that a piece of paper is the same is absurd to me. If someone would come to me and say that items of my religious faith, that, oh, you just need a piece of paper is all you need. That's not what America was founded on. America was founded on freedom of religion, to be able to express it and to be able to uphold our rights to that religious freedom.
Could I clarify something?
Please let me finish. I've seen the kirpan. As I've said, it is in a secure sheath and a secure holder that if anyone, Mr. Schaefer, you keep saying, well, someone else could take it off of them. If they're taking it off of them, they're breaking many rules because the sheath is under their clothing, so they're taking off their clothing. To remove it from the material would take another knife or scissors in an inappropriate manner. And so I feel that this is an appropriate policy and that it should be in place. And you wanted to...
So, but basically, it can be 6 inches long with a 2.5-inch blade. That's what is allowed.
The 6 inches includes the handle,
Correct.
includes the sheath.
Correct.
The blade is 2.5 inches long.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mendez, you had...
Yes, may I have the picture?
Again, for clarification, if this goes in the paper, this is not what we're approving for them to wear. It's deceiving the public. Mr. Schaefer, I'm sorry, but this is deception. This is not what we're...
pictures here that I've had for a while.
Yes, but this is, you're putting this out there.
This is a kirpan.
I don't...
This is a kirpan.
Yes, it is. This is a kirpan. It is not what we're recommending in the policy that our students bring to school.
Do we have one here,
But
Mr. Duchamp? Do we have one to show the
Mr.
public?
Schaefer, you saw it the last board meeting.
I
Do we
want to
have
have a
one to show the
conversation.
public?
I'll just make my comments, please, Madam
Yes.
President. That is not what we're recommending in our policy. I just wanted to make that clear. And secondly, that if I'm incorrect in this, Mr. Schaefer mentioned about the fact that it's been banned in other countries of the world. Guess what? They don't practice the same freedoms that we practice in this country. I don't want to go live in another country that doesn't give me the freedoms that I have here in this nation. I treasure those. So I don't want to follow other countries and ban things that keep us from practicing our faith, which our forefathers came here to do. Secondly, the issue of even one district, to our knowledge, that banned them in the United States. There was one prior to that, you have to correct me if I'm in error here, but the courts decided against the district's banning of that in their district. And so our policy, as a result of that court decision, was framed on that basis. And so we're really trying here very hard to accommodate two critical issues and two critical freedoms: freedom of expression in religion and freedom of students to be safe in our schools. I am a parent who had 3 boys come through this district. They're all graduates, they're all in college. If my students were alongside these other students wearing the kirpans that we have approved that are allowed within the policy, I would not hesitate to have them in the same building side by side. In the legal ethical description, it says, as used in this section, this is grounds for suspension or expulsion from school. As used in this section, knife means any dirk, dagger, or other weapon with a fixed, sharpened blade fitted permanently or for stabbing, a weapon with a blade fitted primarily for the stabbing, a weapon with a blade longer than, in this case, 3.5 inches, and so on. It goes like that. So students that's against the law. That's not what we're approving. We are not approving students to bring weapons to school. That is not what we're saying. It does not fit the definition of the education legal code. And secondly, it's not a danger to anybody. If you take a look at it, our pencils and our scissors, our pens in our schools are much more dangerous than what we are approving under this policy. Take a look at this, be informed. Don't let the sensationalism sway you or any people out there. Be aware of what the decision really implicates. Thank you.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the dialogue that's taken place. I know according to CSBA, the #1 overriding concern of a board above the education of the children is safety. And so it's within that realm that I appreciate the fact that this topic has come up. I appreciate the conversations that have taken place. I'm concerned, as it's been vocalized, that some might see this as veiled bigotry, and I would like to dissuade any of that type of commentary associated with this. What I would do is just focus, because so much has been stated already based on penal code, ed code, and what's before us at this point is approving this regulation. And I wanted to read for the record exactly, if approved, what it is that the Sikhs, who by the way came to us because of this, what they'll be signing. And it says, the above named student is hereby granted permission to possess a kirpan under the following conditions. #1, the kirpan must be secured by a strap and tightly sewn into the strap so it is securely held and cannot be removed from the sheath. #2, the kirpan will be worn on a cloth strap under the student's clothing so that it is not readily visible. #3, the kirpan will have a dull blade no more than 2.5 inches in length, with a total length not to exceed 6 inches, including its sheath. #4, the kirpan will never be removed from its sheath and shall not be displayed, brandished, or used in a threatening manner. Designated district officials may make reasonable inspections to confirm that the conditions of this agreement are being followed. Reasonable attempts to prevent harassment, intimidation, or provocation of the student by an employee or another student will be taken, including appropriate disciplinary actions to prevent and address such actions should it occur. If any of the conditions included, but not limited to, this agreement are violated, the student's privilege of wearing the kirpan may be suspended, and the student may be subject to discipline under grounds for suspension or expulsion as specified in Education Code 48900. The district has the right to rescind this agreement. They are willing to sign this. We are unlike those who have had association with the Sikhs. My children go to school with those who have made this sacred commitment in their faith to wear the kirpan because of a covenant that they're making with their faith. Very few that are of that age in high school even make that commitment, because it requires a set of standards that most youth aren't willing to accept. So it's a very small percentage. It's less than a handful of individuals that we're talking about. And the question was asked of me by a local newspaper. You're a parent with children in the district. How do you feel about it? Do you think your children are safe? And I said, absolutely. They're willing to sign this. It meets policy. It meets ed code. It meets penal code. It's a sacred, to these Sikh in Jurupa, it's a sacred symbol. And therefore, I think we should adopt this and move forward and let the people live in peace. They're good students. There's not been one incident in North America in over 100 years where one kirpan, not one kirpan, has been involved in an incident. Not one in over a century in the United States. I think we're going to be okay, folks.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-1. Item I, act on student discipline cases. We have one revoke expulsion case, 11-182. Move for approval. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We have two expulsion cases, agreement and stipulation, 13-016 and 13-019.
I move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item J, approve personnel matters. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. Administration recommends the board approve personnel report number 9 as printed.
Move for approval. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 2, approve implementation of the NEAJ Jurupa contingency language, restoring 3 furlough days and covering the shortfall in the health and welfare pool. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank
So
you.
moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would you like to go ahead and let everybody know?
The good news?
Yes.
The district planned, budgeted, and negotiated for the worst case scenario, and we're pleased with the passage of Proposition 30. We are able to use the contingency language that we wrote and reinstate 3 of the furlough days to NEA Jurupa.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in, or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 3, approve implementation of the CEA Me Too Memorandum of Understanding concerning parity on the health and welfare benefit allowance.
Thank you, and we believe in looking toward parity to all of our employee groups and have a Me Too with CSEA. So this would extend to include CSEA in an equivalent amount of $733,000 to CSEA. Administration recommends approval of the Me Too with CSEA to that amount.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 4, approve one-time payment to the management confidential employees to provide health and welfare benefit allowance.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Elzig?
Our commitment to parity would extend to management, and we recommend the board approve this amount to the management confidential employees.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 5, adopt revised 2012-13 academic school year calendar.
Thank you. This is the same calendar previously approved by the board with one exception, and that's the reinstatement of the 3 furlough days that were to occur in March and April.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And a memo will go out to parents after vacation to let them
Yes.
know they have 3 more days.
Yes, thank you. Most definitely.
Thank you. And item 6, adopt revised administrative regulation 4140, 2012-13, certificated bargaining unit members employee work year schedule.
Yes, this is the administrative regulation that outlines the work years for employees, and with reinstating those 3 furlough days, we needed to make revisions in this policy as well. Administration recommends the board approve these changes.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item K, board member comments and committee reports. Mr. Mendez.
I'm grateful that Prop 30 passed and that we're in a position to,
I'm grateful that Prop 30 passed and that we have had the opportunity to add the 3 days that have been priorly set up as furlough days for our district, and also to help with the health and welfare benefits as well. And hopefully those funds will help our district in other ways as well as we progress through this year. I was concerned by the comment about safety in our schools. We continue to say how important safety is for our students, and I don't know if this still takes place or not, but I know that eons ago, years ago, as a principal part of the reporting process, I sort of recall, at least for categorical programs, was to do a survey with the school on a variety of factors in light of effective school components. And I thought safety at the school site was one of the questions in that survey that went out to parents, or that was done in some fashion. I can't remember. But it concerns me anytime that somebody perceives their school as not being safe, and I really want to make sure that we in fact do have nothing but the utmost safety in mind for our students.
Thank you. Mrs. Burns.
It's been a real long day. I want to share that working with Carl Harris has just absolutely been a pleasure. The man has integrity, and I think I'll call him friend. Now that he's no longer a colleague, he'll be my friend forever, and I look forward to seeing you on your visit when you go that way. And working with Carl Harris has just been an absolute delight. Even though we might differ on our politics, we enjoy political humor and often can laugh at ourselves because we're a part of this team that does care about kids. And I don't think anybody here cares any more than the rest of us, but I mean, I love Carl Harris.
Mr. Schaefer.
I would like to welcome Mr. Hernandez and thank Carl Harris for all he's done for the community. He will be missed. I attended the DAT committee, and as always, Terry and Lorraine have always put on a wonderful program. Basically discussed was the 2012 Accountability Progress Report, but as always, they did a very good job. I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I'd like to wish those who were in the accident across the street the very best. That's unbelievable just to see what happened. But it looks like there was no fatalities and that they'll all be okay. So I'm grateful for Mrs. Ober, who happens to be outside the doors, for being a citizen that's willing to step up and do something about it. So what a great example she was today. I would like to congratulate Mr. Hernandez on a successful election to the board. Mr. Hernandez has had the desire to serve the children of this community for a long time, and the people of this community have given him this opportunity, and as a parent in the community with children attending the schools, I'm looking forward to your success, Mr. Hernandez, and I wish you the very, very best in all the sincerity of my heart and the things that you'll be doing to help bring educational opportunities to all the children of the district. So congratulations. I want to also just take a moment, since this is Thanksgiving, I really do need to say thank you to a few people. You know, there are so many hardworking staff and people in the administration, so many high-quality teachers that have influenced my family, from elementary school from Mr. James Smythe to Mrs. Joan Bain and so many others. In middle school, Mr. Goldtree and Mrs. Capita and so many others. In high school, Mr. Weatherford and Mrs. McIntosh, and of course, Stacy Delarocco. Just tremendous, tremendous influences on my children and on my family. And the reasons why I wanted to be on the board the very first time I ran, and the reason that I was willing to accept an appointment. I'm grateful for the high quality teachers in our district and all that they've done for my children and my family. As I mentioned, I'm so grateful for all the staff, and there's just too many to thank, but I would like to address cabinet. And I'll start with Assistant Superintendent over Personnel Services, Ms. Elser. I saw something with Ms. Elzick that I've never seen before or since happened to any other administrator. And in the face of just surmounting challenges, when reasoning would say just keep quiet and move on, Tammy Elzick, in my opinion, has become one of my modern day heroes. Grace under fire. And I am so grateful for your example and for your husband Bill and all that you have gone through. It would have been easy for you to get another job at another district, and you decided to stick through this and do what was right rather than what was easy. And for that, you are my hero, Miss Elzick, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to work with you.
It's been an honor.
Mr. Dabrowski, Assistant Superintendent over Education Services. Sir, I've seen you from a parent, a Camino parent, to a principal of outstanding reputation within our district, and now in this position. I've had the privilege of watching you actually serve those that behind closed doors other people wouldn't know, but I know because I know the children, I know the parents, and you have always put the best interest of the children first, as I've witnessed it. And I know that you're passionate about having a high quality education. This is not just a career for you, but it's an endeavor. And I appreciate what you've done behind closed doors and in the public's eye. Thank you so much, Mr. Dabrowski, for your example that you've set as a parent and as an employee of the district. Mr. Gill, Assistant Superintendent over Business Services, you came in under a tough gig. Jackie was really good. And Pam was on. But you've been equal to and exceeded, in my mind, the things that could have been accomplished. Not many people understand the road you had to take to get here as a very successful military man. For you to take the path to leave that and to come into this, less than 2% of all those who travel that path can even make it. Unbelievable courage and ability and capabilities. Mr. Gill, thank you for what you do to help save jobs, help provide revenue streams, and to be able to do the fiduciary responsibilities that's so critical to this district. I'm so privileged to have served with you, so thank you very much.
Likewise.
And of course, Mr. Duchan, the superintendent. While it's been rumored over many times that I've been a puppet of Mr. Duchan's, or been in his back pocket, or we've embezzled $100,000 and gone to Mexico. Of course, all of those things are not proper or correct. As a matter of fact, having served 3 years as board president, there were many occasions where Mr. Duchan and I, under private doors, disagreed about things. In fact, there's quite a few things that he was not afraid to say, you know, Carl, I don't think this is a good deal, and here's why. And I've been just as easy to come back and say, well, Mr. Duchan, this is my opinion, and this is why. But like any good relationship of trust, there's been a relationship that's been developed that I can tell you, it breaks my heart when a man who lives in this community, who has had opportunities to be a superintendent in other districts, who has given up salary and been willing to stay at the bottom tier of the superintendents that are equal to him in this area, gets hammered the way he does. Mr. Duchan, it has been a privilege to serve with you. I'm grateful for your commitment to the district and to the children. I'm thankful for your integrity. I'm grateful for your honesty. And I appreciate you, sir, very, very much. Thank you for being the superintendent of the Jurupa Unified School District and for allowing me to have that relationship with you. I appreciate it.
And we so thank you.
Now, well, of course I wouldn't leave Denise. This whole place would fall apart if it wasn't for Denise. We love Denise. She is amazing, as the rest of the staff is. I want to say thank you to Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer, thank you for allowing me to have this last time on the board, sir. Mr. Schaefer's wife had a desire to be a part of this board. Mr. Schaefer has seen that there are areas where he is passionate about to be able to come onto this board. I believe that you're passionate, Mr. Schaefer. I believe that you have good interests in making sure that the children of this district are educated, kept safe, and are provided with all the opportunities that they can possibly get. You understand what special education is in a very real sense, and your abilities and your passion is unmatched when you decide you want to get something done. And I appreciate that example and appreciate you giving me this opportunity. I wanted to say thank you very much. Mr. Mendez, what a reputation you have as a teacher, as a principal, and as an administrator, and now a board member in the district. Your demeanor, your study, your capabilities in being able to decipher through the minutia that sometimes comes to us is incredible. And one who represents what one can achieve when one doesn't or isn't given all the opportunities as other people have in their life. You've achieved and overcome through obstacles something that is magnificent. Not only are you a great board member and one who I'm very proud to have served with on the board, but you're a tremendous individual and a great husband and a great father. And I've seen that through your children who've been friends with my children. And I appreciate you, Mr. Mendez, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve with you this last time. I really do appreciate it. Mary, oftentimes we unfortunately have members of the community with good intentions who are very ill-informed come before the board. I was one of those. For 2 years I came to board meetings and I had perceptions and I had information and I lambasted you. And when I came on the board, I didn't even like it. But then we had the opportunity to get to know you. And Ms. Burns, there is nobody that I know of that has more love for children than you do.
Oh, I don't know.
She does. Mary, you do. And you're one also who has no guile. Mary would tell me, Carl, if you do this, I'm going to whack you with a bat, and when you look up, I'm going to laugh at you. And sure enough, I did it. She whacked me with a bat. I woke up, and she was standing over there laughing at me. She's a person of her word. She's, Mary, even though we haven't agreed on a lot of things, you have been a stellar example of what it means to be committed to children.
And to this board.
And to this board over all these many years, amongst challenges that have come beyond belief. So thank you so much, Ms. Burns, for the opportunity to serve with you. Thank you. And finally, Ms. Cheryl, Madam President. What a wonderful board president you have been. I know what it's like to be board president, and I wasn't very good. You are good. You are wonderful. The way you manage the meetings, the way that you listen to and collaborate with the board, the way you work with the superintendent and staff, the responsibilities that you've shouldered, not only just as a board member, but as the president of the board, is not just a figurehead position, but carries with it great responsibility. And I'm so grateful that you're on the board, and I'm so grateful that you've allowed me the privilege of being able to serve with you for this last time that I've been on the board. So thank you, Madam President, very much. Thank you all very, very much. I'm grateful. When I think about the Constitution, I think about those who we raise our hand as board members and we say we're going to sustain. My thoughts go to the fact that they said that they would pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I haven't had to give my life or my fortune, but I have put my sacred honor on the table. I've been accused of things that I have never been accused of in my life. And quite frankly, I'm not going to miss that. It's been a privilege. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Carl. Cabinet and my colleagues, thank you for spending today here at the district going over ways that we can better work together, better make this district. Mr. Hernandez, look forward to working with you once again. And all of you enjoy your Thanksgiving holidays with your families. And don't forget that the December 5th meeting will be at Patriot High School and not December 10th. Thank you. We'll be at Patriot High. And with that, we are adjourned.